As we speak, Carol Gaddy and her husband Thomas are fugitives. This is a couple fugitive from Judge Thomas Graham in Chancery Court in Sequatchie County, who yesterday issued a bench warrant for their arrest on the grounds of contempt. The contempt is that he has ordered this couple to yield to a search of their house on Main Street in a little crook in Coops Creek, which winds through town. Their house is about a carbine shot away from City Hall. And because these folks are gracious Christians, they would never even think of aiming a carbine in the direction of City Hall and Mayor Dwayne Land, who is the chief executive of the city, and who about 2 years ago case against this couple and their beautiful Civil War era house. They have been making repairs on this house for about 20 years or so. They've maybe a little bit less than 20 years. And a couple years ago, they drew the notice of the mayor, Dwayne Land, who is a landlord and a businessman who owns a detective agency and properties and is a successful all-American entrepreneur and a backer of the Second Amendment. And he, in a sworn statement, said after an inspection of this house from the border of it, he determined that the house was a danger to the public and a threat to human life. And so he ordered an inspection. Now, the question is, what is an inspection? What is the authority of any official at any level of government, whether municipal, county, state, or federal, to inspect a property that government agency does not have a contractual or other kind of relationship in equity, under contract or under agreement? In other words, if you own a house in Sequatchie County and in Dunlap, are you free from a search and seizure? That essentially is what an inspection is. However, Dunlap's demand for an inspection and its litigation that's cost $20,000 of taxpayer money to have this inspection is premised on something that does not exist, legally speaking. Here, ask ourselves, well, if it's not premised on lawful authority, well, then what is it premised on? That is a mystery. I can't say. It may be personal. It probably goes somewhere into the mind and heart of Mayor Dwayne Land, who is facing re-election. He's facing re-election and may have at least one challenger to that office. Hopefully, who will respect the citizens of that city, that town, and not have a prolonged ordeal, which for this elder couple has been a genuine nightmare. A nightmare that local media won't cover. A nightmare that only I, David Tulis, your host here at Nooga Radio, has covered. And one report, a single report from TB3 several months ago. And that's all the coverage that's been given to the bold and courageous action of Mayor Dwayne Land. A very friendly and affable man, and I'm sure very competent and respected in many parts of town. Suing this couple in court. He should have filed his claim with the aid of City Attorney Stephen Greer. He should have filed it as the charter requires in city court, because the charter, which is the law of the legislature given to the corporation of Dunlap, has a law. It's called a charter. It's called private law, and it is part of the corporate status that the state grants to the people who form the corporation of Dunlap. And the charter requires that all issues arising under ordinance, all disputes, claims, arguments, contests, disagreements, litigation about any ordinance that arise from the operation of the legislative branch of the city government, which would be the city commission, that all disputes be handled in city court. However, Stephen Greer, for some reason, elected to disregard the city charter and filed his claim in Chancery Court. And now it is being heard in Chancery, which I believe has no jurisdiction, and which I believe, if I understand the whole question of judicial jurisdiction, means that Judge Thomas Graham, the Chancery Court judge who was handling the case for another judge, Judge Stewart, who recused himself, that judge is impotent to do anything. And yet, yesterday, as the litigation proceeded, as the threats mounted through Christmas, warnings given, dates set for the inspection date arriving, the Gaddys not there to open the gate, the attorney, the inspectors, the police chief of the town leaving after a few minutes. Read all about it at Nooganomics.com. The case built, and then yesterday passed. The Gaddys did not comply, did not allow the search. Well, what is the authority for a search? Well, there is no such thing as administrative authority to conduct a search. It just doesn't exist. No city government, no corporation can say, I demand to search your house. Like the listener in your town, if you are not living in Dunlap, you, my listener, have absolute authority to prohibit, ban, bar, and reject any worker or agent, inspector of any city agency or any county agency from your property. You simply say, get off my property without a warrant, and that person cannot come on your property without a warrant. Do warrants arise from civil authority? No, they don't. Warrants under our constitutional form of government arise only under a sworn statement that a criminal act has occurred and that somehow a search of that property is required and compulsory to bring justice to bear. Without a search of this property, we cannot. It is a crime. A crime has been committed, and we demand to search this property, this house, for evidence of that crime, for proofs that the crime existed, so that we might prosecute the cause of justice better. That is what a warrant is. It is in criminal jurisdiction. There is no such thing as a civil warrant. Now, there might be if, for example, you're a licensee of the state, you have a special license under, let's say you're a corporation, you have a special license to do a certain thing like dump a certain type of trash in a stream, okay? You're an industrial concern and you have a permit. Well, in that case, it's very likely that the inspector of the city or the county or the state environmental division can come on your property and check the spout, right? Or can check how the spout is fed by the process in your plant. I believe under equity, under the agreement that you made as the terms of the license, right? That's in that sense, that's not really a search. That is an inspection. We don't have a relationship like that. The Gaddys are not running a factory. They're not running a business. They don't have any special licenses or permits. They're simply private people. And they have what the law calls their castle. The castle doctrine is very important, and it allows you to say absolutely no. If you don't have probable cause, you cannot conduct a search. Now, it doesn't matter how much, and Stephen Greer, the attorney in Dunlap, call their search an inspection. They can call it what they want, but it's not. It is a search. And Mrs. Gaddy, who is an Americanist, meaning she's a kind of a constitutional-minded American who makes a great deal out of the sacrifice of soldiers overseas. She cares a great deal about the Constitution of our state. She knows how to cite it. She understands that authorities come from statute, but always the people are secure in their effects, their papers, and their property, and that officials cannot come onto their property absent a warrant of probable cause. In other words, searches in Tennessee are illegal. And illegal, flat out. They're flat out illegal. Okay, got that? But if the official representing justice or innocent people who have been damaged by a crime, if they can obtain a warrant, a sworn under oath, right, before God, and a warrant sworn before God that what the officer says is true, then they have authority to come onto a property to search it. They can search a car. They can search a warehouse. They can search a building, a factory. They can come into your barn. They can search a field. Perhaps they're looking for a dead body. They can search the ruins of an old two-story house in the woods that was burned, they can search that. If they have a warrant and there's resistance to their arrival, they obtain a warrant from the judge by swearing before God that a crime has been committed and evidence that that crime is there in that house. And then they can search. That has not happened here. There is no warrant for the search and seizure of anything in this house. Now, the last time I talked with Mayor Land, he said, well, we just want to go in there and look around. We just want to come in and check. That's what he said. And when you listen to Mayor Land, a very genial man, very friendly man, it seems just innocuous. It seems harmless. What is the big deal, Carol Gaddy and Thomas Gaddy? What is your problem? What is your problem? What are you concerned about? What are you hiding? See, that's the way I determine and how I hear this line of discussion from the mayor. He's very reasonable. He doesn't really, and the mayor gives the impression that he's not really following this whole affair very closely. That it's just sort of something that, you know, the inspection department's handling, and I'm really not that current with it. I'm just kind of on the edges of this whole thing. It doesn't really concern me directly. Now, that may be true, but it also could be just a deception of the reporter, right? The writer comes up there from Chattanooga, from Saudi Daisy, and sniffs around a little bit, and so that's what he's going to get. He's going to be told that, well, you know, we just want to check out what's going on there, and I really don't know the details, and it is in court, so I really shouldn't comment much about it. That's the kind of comment that Mayor Land gives to people like me. I've had 2 interviews with him. One, a nice sit down for about 10 minutes. Reported where? Well, reported at Nooganomics.com, the website for the Man Who Matters, published by the slow man of Chattanooga. That's me, David Tulis, the slow man of Chattanooga. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. What's going on here? I'm slow. So I think what we have to ask the officials in Sequatchie County is, what are you doing? What are you doing? Just ask them plainly, what is your authority? How can you search a house without probable cause? Do you think that Thomas and Carol Gaddy, she 69, he 71, have done something wrong? Have they committed a crime? Are they hiding contraband? Are they hiding cocaine or stolen rifles? Or have they stolen gold from some widow's estate nearby? Do they have a dead body in the basement? What are you looking for? And these questions are the dumb man's questions, which I'm entrusted by you, my listener, here at Nooga Radio. You, the Nooga Radio, trust me to ask that question of these officials. And it is a question of local economy in the free markets. What we have here is a very unfree market. We have in the assault, it is an important legal assault in which the city is justifying itself and doesn't know how to turn around. The city has gone so far now, the city of Dunlap has gone so far that it does not know how to turn around and save face. How can it save face? Well, I don't know that it can. And somehow this case is going to blow up in the face of the people involved. I think that Judge Thomas Graham, the Chancery Court judge, can be fair and just in issuing a bench warrant when Mrs. Gaddy has filed a federal suit against him for oppression. Can he rightly and justly, under the Code of Judicial Ethics in Tennessee, handle this case? It seems to me that he should recuse himself too. But Judge Graham apparently has not. And though the suit by Mrs. Gaddy in federal U.S. District Court is 3 or 4 weeks old by now, has been there, lodged there with the clerk's hands 3 or 4 weeks ago, that's plenty of time for Judge Graham to know about that and to say, well, you know, I think I probably ought to recuse myself. She's accusing me of oppression under federal statute, the threat of jail. I better step back and let somebody else handle this case. If a bench warrant needs to be issued, better not me. And the reason a judge who's prudent and careful would say that, and maybe Judge Graham is really thinking about this, I don't know, is that he doesn't want to be seen as acting in bad faith. Now, if you go to Nooganomics.com, you'll read how it is you establish bad faith. And the parties in this case have not done that. And I've been busy and have not thought to propose anything to the victims in this matter. But faith by giving what's called administrative notice. Now, I've used this before. The idea of administrative notice, notifying people of who I am, for example. I had one whole barrage of admin notices indicating what my name is. My name is David Jonathan Tulis. And I forced the state of Tennessee in its claims against me in a case to deal with me in the flesh, in persona propria, as opposed to dealing with me as my avatar. The avatar is David Jonathan Tulis, written in all capital letters. And so I said, that's not me. And in fact, I sent copies of my birth certificate that born in Memorial Hospital in Chattanooga. I'm a local boy, right? A local boy with a master's degree in English and a long career in the newspaper business. My name is David Jonathan Tulis, capital D, small a, V-I-D, capital J, small O-N-A-T-H-A-N, capital T, lowercase U-L-I-S. And so I forced the state to deal with me as an individual. This was so remarkable that when I argued my case before the Court of Appeals, about 20 DA types with their nice suits lined up in the back row to listen to my oral arguments. They had not quite met someone like me. Well, if you want to show bad faith, use admin notice. And what that does, it deprives the state actor, whether he be a judge, whether he be a police officer, the chief of police, it deprives him of the defense that in your case against him to take his house, his property, his bank account, and his estate from him. The defense that, well, I just didn't know. If he's been properly notified of the Constitution, of your rights, on his authority, well, then he can't do what he's doing. That's your argument, okay? And so you don't make the argument in an administrative notice. You simply declare the law. That's all you do is declare the law and maybe cite a case or two as to what the law means or how it applies in a given case. That's all an admin notice does. It does not make an argument. It just states the law. Because the defense is always, well, I didn't know my limitations, or I didn't know the law, or I didn't know that this person had these rights that he now or she now is accusing me of violating. Admin notice is important. But I would say that the state actors in this case know very well what the limits are, even though they have not received an official administrative notice that perhaps I could have written if I just had time. But, you know, I'm looking out for you, my listener. And even though I like to help people with good counsel, good discussion about their rights, I did not do this, and neither did the Gaddys. And yet there has been much said in the way of motions and arguments before the court that this case is in the wrong court, that you don't have authority to search. Where is the probable cause? And Mrs. Gaddy, I can see why they don't like her in Sequatchie County and in Dunlap. She's a woman, okay? And there are many old-fashioned type people there who I think are pricked by her being a female, who has done a lot of reading in the law now, and who's gotten, I'd say, very proficient in motions and the like. Very interesting person, very lively person. She's a patriot. Mrs. Gaddy is a patriot, I would say. And so now what? Well, now there's a search party out for this couple, and they face arrest. They face jail for contempt, civil contempt, which is perpetual. Okay, now I get that. They can be kept in jail in Sequatchie County perpetually until death. Civil contempt is the type of contempt where you hold the key to the jail cell. And that simply is agreeing. You agree to allow a search without a warrant of your house, and that is the key. Allow us to search, and we will give you your liberty. You have people who are highly principled, but they also have their limits. And you, my listener, I think, need to care about this case. You, my listener, need to not just say, wow, another passing scene today. And David Tulis is describing the state versus the individual one more time. Wow, that's interesting. And go on about your day. Is this really what you want to do? Is there nothing that you, my listener, can do on behalf of the Gaddys? Could someone perhaps afford them the best attorney to make their case for them? They don't have a lot of money, and that's why they have not been able to afford counsel. They are not a rich people. And yet you, my listener, you're the man who matters. You are maybe a wealthy man, and perhaps you could offer some help by writing a nice check to an attorney to help get this case going, to get it in a better direction. Mrs. Gaddy is overwhelmed with the effort of her own defense and has made, no doubt, many, many mistakes. For example, there has been depositions in this case at all. Not a single one has been made. That's a basic way of making a case go away. You depose the other side in detail. And the deposition has the benefit of showing how weak the other side's case is. and make a good process of discovery makes bad cases go away before they ever get to the judge. That has not been done in this case, and so this family, this couple, is in dire straits, desperate straits, and they're standing on their rights, and they face perpetual stay in jail in Sequatchie County for standing on constitutional rights. And I don't think they're wrong. I think on the whole they are correct. And we have truly an abusive case, an abuse of process case in Sequatchie County. You, my listener, what can you do to help? This is David Tulis. Go to Nooganomics.com, our chief sponsor.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. AM 1240 Nooga Radio News. Russell Stroud reporting. The first volunteer back on Highway 58 was robbed by a gunman at about 3:40 p.m. yesterday. Police say nobody was hurt. 5 different businesses in our local area have been penalized yesterday morning after a meeting of the Chattanooga Beer Board for allegedly serving beer to underage individuals. There are also penalties for overcrowding to different restaurants as well. The Erlanger Chattanooga Marathon starts Friday afternoon, and there are going to be several road closures. Check out our Facebook page for more information about which roads are going to be closed and which areas you should avoid. The marathon goes from Friday until Sunday. On the national side of things, Congressman Scott DesJarlais on Thursday voted for the latest in a new series of House bills, which he says is to stop agency misconduct and overreach. He says that under the Obama administration, federal agencies violated laws prohibiting them from organizing publicity campaigns for some of the former president's more controversial initiatives. And Georgia Senator David Perdue voicing his support for Jeff Sessions, saying that he's a friend and, more importantly, a former colleague. It's going on in the Tennessee Valley. It's going on Nooga Radio News.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Shane Wilson makes music to get your house sold. Get traffic to your house. Get calls. Strum up a bit of demand. One offer, just one. If it's right, it's all you need. We riff you through the usual tedium. Pre-qualified? Financing? We help you get it all together. $. Here's a symbol we like. Shane Wilson with RE/MAX Select Realty, your real estate rock star. PickShane.com, 635-7779.
Oh, he's got bad breath. And once he slobbered. But your dog's teeth are important for his health. The canine dentist at Wolf Fever has an offer. Listen, ultrasonic cleaning, polishing, x-rays, only $135. Ordinarily, you'd pay $175. For a few days, pay only $135. And get $115 in freebies as a thank you. Grooming, boarding at the inn at Wolf Fever. Act this week. Use anytime this year. Floss and rinse now. 344-1913. WolfTeaver.com.
My name's Chris Long, and I want to be the people's mayor. Every 2 to 4 years, politicians come back in our neighborhoods and explain why they didn't do what they promised and how things are going to be different this time. Let's understand a vote for Andy Burke will mean another 4 years of being ignored. A vote for me will mean creating trade schools for our children, black business districts, more affordable housing, and the end of violent crime. I want a level playing field for everybody, not just a select few. Let's bring back the voice of Chattanooga. Vote for Chris Long.
And now to our reporter in the field.
We asked Ray at Ray's Plumbing what's important for homeowners to know.
Some field line systems can cost upwards of $10,000. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road. I would definitely recommend everybody with a septic that is not on county or city sewer to have an inspection done by a qualified professional. It'd be great if nobody did inspections on them for all plumbing companies. That's what we do to make a living. Not to scare anyone, but it should be in the back of your mind. The danger is the field lines failing and costing thousands upon thousands of dollars and tearing your yard up. By preventative maintenance, you're saving yourself a large headache that may displace yourself and your family. That happens more often than you think. The waste is designed to stay in the tank, and that waste will build up over time. Even with treatment, we have to help that waste break down. Ultimately, preventative maintenance is the key that will keep you from spending $5,000 to $10,000 on replacing your septic system. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road.
Call Ray at Ray's Plumbing, 421-6341, 421-6341.
Final expenses, funeral cost, cemetery lots, unpaid medical bills, probate cost, debts. Debts are due and payable upon death of debtor. Will these costs produce a burden and hardship on your loved ones? Who will be responsible? How will they handle them? These costs can total many thousands of dollars, only compounded greater with the grief of losing a family member. A safe and secure way to provide for these costs is with an affordable life insurance from Covenant Group Insurance and Financial Services. Covenant Group is a local company with local agents. Covenant Group still makes house calls. Covenant Group only represents A-rated companies. With many options to offer, Covenant Group can accommodate almost any budget. Great discounts for good health and plans available for impaired risk. Call today for a free, no-obligation consultation in the convenience of your home. Call Steve or Jada at 423-855-8484. Call today, 423-855-8484.
Amigos Mexican Restaurant in Hickson, featuring our NASCAR Natty Light for only $2.25 all day during the Sprint Cup race. That's right, all day during the race. Enjoy a cool, crisp, refreshing brew. Natty Light, just $2.25. Also choose from a wide variety of other beverages on tap or in the bottle. Amigos, between Hobby Lobby and Staples in Hickson. Amigos Mexican Restaurant, a real homemade taste of Mexico. And Natty Light for only $2.25 during the Sprint Cup race. A festive atmosphere, great service and prices, a fantastic taste. Always fresh, never frozen. Stay cool, quench your thirst at happy hour, 9 to 3 today and every day, featuring huge drink specials at Amigos. Take the table next to mine. We'll enjoy the Sprint Cup race on huge flat screen TVs with friends and family. See you here at the Cantina, Amigos.
Expect lots of sunshine, but breezy and chilly for your Friday. Highs will struggle to reach the lower to middle 50s. Tonight, clear, cold with a freeze likely. Lows 28 to 30. After a frosty start, looking good Saturday. Lots of sun near 60. Some clouds continue dry and pleasant Sunday. This week at Target, get $15 off when you spend $50 on laundry, cleaning supplies, and other household items. Find everything you need to stock up and save at Target. Some restrictions may apply. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
This morning at about 5 o'clock, I went to the city attorney's office website and made an open records request for the arrest of Antonio Bell, specifically the audio and video of this encounter. I'm willing to bet that there are none. I'm willing to bet that, and here's why. Because the police report describing this arrest pits 4 important, good, valuable people against 2 good and valuable people. The 2 together are the defendant and now prisoner and inmate at Silverdale. His name is Antonio Bell. He's black. He's homeless, half homeless, works at an Arby's restaurant, is 29 years old. And with him is an affidavit written by a woman who is out very late, it seems to me at an ungodly hour, very late at the Walmart store in Hickson at about 1 o'clock in the morning. She gives a statement about what happened, having heard almost the entire encounter between Antonio Bell and the police. The police on their side have 4. They have 2 officers, Officer Ketron, and 2 more city police employees. These are city employees, okay? That's all they are. They're employees of city government, the municipal corporation. And then the 4th party would be David Bales. David Bales, who is also in daylight hours a judge. Now, we have in the jail until about March 17, we have Antonio Bell. And he declines to undo the plea agreement that got him there on account that it might keep him longer in the jail as he, first of all, has petitions to have the plea agreement overturned because on the grounds of bad advice. And then he would have to have another hearing petitioning to lower the bond from an astronomical $32,000, which would cost his family $3,200 outright if they were to pay a bondsman, of course, who keeps the money. A bondsman, he ostensibly covers the whole, though I think that whole system is fractionally reserved anymore. And bondsmen don't write checks that big. I think they don't. They're just small businessmen. But anyway, they pretend to cover the bond, but they keep the 10%. In his case, be $3,200 that the family would not get back. So there would have to be a hearing for that, and that might keep Anthony Bell in jail longer than his sentence has him. And so he was unwilling to clear his name. He was unwilling to overturn the plea agreement on charges that don't apply to him. Okay, that's why this story is so interesting, on charges that don't apply to him. And he is going to just sit tight and not disturb things because he didn't want to have an extra day in jail that vindicating his rights, vindicating his name, and going to trial might have and probably would have required. He would have been in there longer than now. And so in the plea agreement on 5 charges, he is there on 2. And we want to ask about the police report that is entirely contradicted by the eyewitness and entirely contradicted by the 2 that I mentioned, the 2 citizens. You have 4 versus 2. The police report says the following. And let me just tell you, I can't say all the words that are put into this report because we are a family-friendly radio station and media platform. Even though you will find, if you go to Nooganomics.com, you will find these words written out. They will. I'm going to misname one word. It's NF. All right, and that's in there. And so I'm not going to say. I won't say that. I won't even say the short form correctly on account of the rules here. But there is a diverging account, and the complainant is David Bales acting in private capacity. Mr. Bale did not like that answer and began to cuss loudly at Judge Bales, stating, "You son of a B." I went and spoke to Mr. Bale, here's the officer again, to advise him that he needed not to panhandle and have respect for other citizens in Chattanooga. He became very agitated and yelled, "Nah, blank that dude. I don't give no blank about no Judge Bales." I asked Mr. Bale twice to lower his voice and talk with me, which he refused. So here the officer is very, very reasonable. He continued to get more and more agitated and took a defense posture by squaring up his body in a bladed fighting stance, while simultaneously staring directly into my face to establish dominance. Okay. I told him if he continued to behave like that I would defend myself. He then became even louder. This is Officer Ketron here speaking. He then became even louder and more animated and was taken into custody. While in the back of my patrol car, he repeatedly stated that he couldn't wait to find Judge Bales, Officer Thomas, and myself out in public so he could beat our cracker asses, quote unquote. Mr. Bale was extremely uncooperative and refused to answer any questions. He was transported to Hamilton County Jail without further incident. That's out of the police report. Now what we need to find out is there perjury in these statements? That's my question. And I sent Chief Fletcher a text yesterday. And I said, Chief Fletcher, I'd like to have an interview with you about this case. Are these statements true? Now, we all know that the police they have honor and integrity and fealty, all great virtues. And the virtues that they have are applied to each other and among each other. And so there will not be any discrepancies that come up. And we know that they're safe. In fact, they are safe because this case is not going to trial. Plea bargain. And so all of it is just moot. It's all just dicta. It's all just fodder for the media, but not fodder for the law, right? It's all been settled. The man is in jail. But the question stands, are these statements true? Because the defendant, who's black, and the witness, who is a woman who happens to be a Caucasian, contradict what this report says. And in fact, when I got the copy of the police report, which is 2 pages long from the city attorney's office, paying my 30 cents for each page, I called the eyewitness, and I said, I read some of the quotes in the report, and I said, did you hear any of this kind of abusive language by Mr. Bell? And she said no. And in fact, her affidavit indicates that she didn't either, because she did not report that in her affidavit. And I asked her, I said, please write an affidavit. This is very important. Write down exactly what you saw and heard, exactly. Quote what you can and paraphrase what you're not sure about. And she did. So what we have is a question about government in the executive branch. The executive branch is that of Andy Burke. Andy Burke is running for mayor, and we have here a case that is under his government and among his people. Now, caller, this is David Tulis, and you're live on the David Tulis Show. And what happens in policing reflects on the office of the mayor? I know generally it doesn't, and that's because we have forgotten the tripartite nature of government in the United States, and it's usually three. You have judicial. Caller, this is David Tulis, and you're live on the David Tulis program. What is on your mind?
Great topic, David. It's Mike Steele here. Would you say that I'm pro-police? I mean, more than you, I would say. Would you say I'm almost always defending the police?
All right, can you say that again? I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear you.
I said, would you say I'm pro-police or almost always defending the police?
I'm pro-police in the sense that I want them to follow the law, and I want them to respect the law, to adhere to the law, to be fearful of offending it.
Would you say that I am?
You are. Yes, Mike, I've got...
I'm anti-cop.
Mike, you've called my show enough time. I don't know how does you keep calling my number? The number is, of course, 800-8949, and you seem to have that written down. And you're very pro-police. In fact, you're kind of irritatingly pro-police. I'm just sort of moderately pro-police.
Okay,
go ahead.
So in that, let me tell you something.
Go ahead.
Anyone that sits on a jury that hears any police officer testify should assume that they're lying. Been to a trial or personally been engaged with anything that went to trial, and I covered trials where the system didn't lie. They're coached to lie. They know how to lie, or prevaricate. Let me use a prettier word. They will obfuscate. They will say what they have to say to ensure convicted, and the DA will coach them to do that. And they're not going to tell you this. And that's not to say that police aren't there to do a good job. But when there is a especially political agenda, like maybe a homeless person, I don't trust anybody. The problem is you have people in uniform that are respected, that are trusted, against people that aren't in uniform that are just, come on, who's going to trust a homeless person after somebody in uniform? Over somebody who's not going to do it. Well, I'm just telling you, jury, assume the system, the prosecutor, and the police are lying until otherwise proven. I want to see the videotape. I want to hear the audio. Because I've seen it myself.
Well, I suspect,
over again.
Mike, I suspect, go ahead. I'm listening, go ahead.
Where the system will almost always lie. They can't take losing. They can't take back talk. That's one thing about this. If it's a bad guy, that's fine. They take him down. But let me tell you, if it's done for political reasons, look at the Gaddy case. They will not eat crow. It's not within their nature to do that. Their ego is so big, they will lie as much as they can to get a win. I'm just telling you, that's what I've seen over the years. I'm not making this stuff up.
And I think locally, it's a local abuse is more vigorously pursued than an abuse by the feds. If you're hounded and harassed by the feds, it's really much more proper, and there's really more appeal to law. I think it's more civilized. But when you get into a local situation where there's a personal animus or a desire to vindicate or desire to hurt, it's extremely difficult, and you can't get away from it because you live there in the same place where your abuser lives.
I agree, local worse than federal. You know, it comes down to the good old boys network, and I don't care if you're talking about. I live all over the country. It's the same everywhere. Seen less abuse with sheriffs and just regular old municipality police departments, but it's there. And as far as the feds are concerned, that holds true, except for where the Internal Revenue Service is concerned. In the 70s and 80s, they were ruthless with virtually no due process. I mean, right now, if the IRS says someone owes them $200,000, they can take their bank account. They can seize it with no due process, what I believe no due process, with no hearing. And no one's talking about this. We're talking about Russians, having a conversation with a Russian. When right now, if the IRS says you owe them money, they can seize your bank account.
Let me ask you a question. Mike, let me ask you a question. Go ahead.
When it comes to the Internal Revenue Service, it's not a fair playing field. Go ahead.
All right. The question I have for you is, here we have officers who, when they join the force, Officer Ketron, for example, and I suspect that Officer Ketron is not telling the truth. And that's why I have a correspondence with Chief Fred Fletcher saying, is this story true? Because it seems to me not. So he had a high ideal. Many officers, I think, do. And so I guess the question is, what do they have to do to resist temptation to turn against common people like this and to think that no one's going to notice? Why do people not notice? Why do people not care?
They see so much bad so often, and it's the greater good problem.
What do you mean?
Well, it's for the greater good. These laws are tying our hands. It's for the greater good. Yeah, I understand that I may be telling a little lie here, but to get this guy off the street, we clean the streets up. So is one person really worth it? No one is really taught And I was taught this, that I'd rather see 99 guilty people go free than one innocent person go to jail. That axiom is not, I don't think it's part of any police training anymore. That 99 people guilty, I'd rather see 99 guilty people go free than one innocent person go to jail. It's how many collars can you make? How much money? Using the police powers to tax. That's what they're doing. Fine.
Well, what concern?
Notice too that.
What graphic? But what? Let me ask you this: what reward does an officer? Let's just theorize here for a second that Officer Ketron has made this story up, and all the parties, including David Bales, the judge, are in agreement with it. They've all come agreeing. This is what happened. This is our narrative. It's not going to come up in trial because of a plea bargain. What motivates an officer to do? How can he sleep with himself if, in fact, this story is made up against this Anthony Bell? How can he sleep with himself? How can he? Where does his conscience come into play?
For years, I was directly involved in a case where a police officer blatantly lied on the witness stand, knowing. Listen, you can't beat the police on the witness stand. They're going to find it. It's just nearly impossible. If it's your testimony against theirs without any material fact, you're going to lose. I knew I was going to lose, but I had to make my point. He lied on the witness stand, a blatant lie. And afterwards, I said, why would you lie like that? You took an oath on the Bible and lied. You were going to win anyway. And he just looked at me. I said, you have to answer to a higher authority. You know what? If I could figure that out, I'd be a billionaire, I guess. But here's where it starts. And a good friend of mine that was an FBI agent told me this. This is how the corruption starts and the corruption in your mind. An officer is told, don't show up at 15 and Pine tonight. There'll be a bag for you, and that bag holds $10,000 in cash. In their mind, they're like, well, I didn't do anything wrong. I just didn't show up there tonight. And that's where the corruption begins. Stealing the pencil.
Well, I suspect, Mike, that's not what's happening. Because now the reason I have this sort it's almost a presupposition with me now that if there's a police report, it's not true, and that's because of our extensive coverage here at Nooga Radio and at Nooganomics about the Galpin and the Melvin cases, which every media platform in Chattanooga ignored, even though I tried to peddle it to one of them, a major one, no interest. It seems to me that perjury is easy because the cops all know that no one's going to look, no one's going to care. And here we are, Nooga Radio, representing the small business, the small advertiser, and we care about these little cases. And so we started asking these very slow man kind of questions. Where does this report come from? Did this really happen?
It's infuriating. It's infuriating.
And
I always say if their lips are moving, they're lying.
Well, I'm starting to think that way. I really don't want, on behalf of my listener, Mike, to become jaundiced and bitter. And it seems though the first two cases that I've covered in detail are pushing me in that direction. Here's another case that may, I don't have all the facts in, so I can't render a judgment. And maybe David Bales, the judge, is entirely innocent and a virtuous and good man. But it seems the way the story is developing that he is part of this of a story. It just looks that way to me, and we'll report on this in the future. You, our listeners here at Nooga Radio. Anything else, Mike? I need to let you go.
Well, just one more thing. I just assume that if you're reading something for the police or the system or a politician, it is a lie. Take it from that angle. Until they can prove it's the truth, we must assume it's a lie. Nothing infuriates me more than the weak television media here, repeating a story as though it's fact when they get it from the police. They no longer even say alleged or according to police. They state an incident that is they may as well just let the police do the newscasts or let the mayor do the newscasts. Where's objective journalism anymore except for the David Tulis show? And we're seeing this trend nationally. I don't know where it's gone, but objective journalism appears to be nearly dead in America. You must use alleged, according to the police. We can't assume that because there's a police report out there, or they were fed something from the city, that it's accurate. And it appears, especially in Chattanooga, that all media in Chattanooga, the weak TV media, I've never seen such weak media, just is nothing more than a parroting mouthpiece of the system.
Well, and very little effort seems to be made to get the other side, to get an attorney or to get a hold of the victim. And often though I think the system itself makes reporting on it very difficult. It took me several days to get the police report, which is a factual news event of this man's arrest. I had to call back. I had to go back, and then there was a delay. It took me about 5 days to get the report.
Look at the Gaddys. I mean, ask the man, by what authority are you doing this? You have no authority to do this. You need to look around because you're going to lose all this, buddy. The problem is they're used to pushing people around. And now with stations like ours and social media, it's over. The cat's out of the genie's out of the bottle. The system has got to know that you're no longer going to get away with this stuff. In the good old days, David, this message didn't get out. They could take you from your house. They can drag you by your head and throw you in jail. And what are you going to do? You don't have money to get out. But now with social media, what we do, the party's over. Party's over.
Well, I think that's a very encouraging thing to say, Mike, and I think you're right. In a way, the party's over. Social media makes everybody impotent. On the other hand, social media allows people such as me to publish in Dunlap, Tennessee. It's amazing how people in Dunlap are contacting me about other things happening in that town, because the Dunlap Tribune, which is a fine newspaper with a lot of local news in it, a lot of pictures and so on about local doings, doesn't cover this story about Mr. and Mrs. Gaddy, who are now fugitives, by the way. They're being sought by police. Deputies. And yet here I am. I can publish the story at Nooganomics.com, the website for the man who matters, and then I can go to Facebook and put a link there, and then I can say something about the story and put the link down, and then to Dunlap. I can post it so that people in Dunlap on Facebook can see it. And that's a way I can, it's like firing a mortar over a hill, right? And of course, the hill I'm firing it over is Walden's Mountain. And the projectile, if you will, lands with its little bit of shrapnel in the social media of that town, and you can direct your advertising. Speaking of which, advertising, there is a lot going on by Andy Burke, who oversees the police department and who proposes no reforms. Andy Burke, the mayor of Chattanooga, is totally insensitive, I would like to suggest, to the questions we've been raising on the David Tulis show. And I do thank you, my listener, for giving me just a couple minutes of your time here at the David Tulis program, Nooga Radio. Tell a friend about Nooga Radio. Andy has, according to Facebook, on his little video, 30-second video, very beautifully done, on the 200 homeless vets for whom he found homes. It has 8.8 thousand views. There are 9 comments this morning and 26 shares. So he's paying heavily in the thousands to get that video repeatedly seen. I see that video on Facebook 3 or 4 times a day. So I'm being served it multiple times. The question is, are you, my listener, going to believe that? Are you going to believe that, or are we going to look at the alternatives? There are alternatives. Chris Long is one. Larry Groen is another. And Dave Crockett is another. These are alternatives. They tend in the Republican direction, though Crockett is sort of not in any party. Crockett, just by the way, read more on Crockett at Nooganomics.com to find out who he really is. A remarkable man. And I have endorsed Crockett for the election, so make note of that. Free markets and local economy. And that's what we do here. We cover local economy from a Nooga-centric perspective.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. I buy Chattanooga houses. Do you have a house that you need to sell? Call us right now, 423-364-0028. Need to sell a house? Here's some of the people we can help. Did you inherit a house that you have no need for? Do you have nightmare tenants making your life miserable? Maybe your house is too big and you want to downsize. You got recently divorced and you need a way out of the house. Maybe you just want to sell. No realtor fees, no hassles, no repair. Costs close the day of your choice. We inspect your property right away, make you a fair cash offer, and we close the day of your choice. 423-364-0028.
Your marriage is over. You've been abandoned, betrayed. You're angry, shattered, and heartbroken. Don't go it alone. When you are facing divorce, you need an experienced advocate to help protect your rights in future. And you need it from a man with a sympathetic heart, but a hard nose. Attorney Clay Whitaker will fight for you in this most confusing and bitter time in your life. Clay Whitaker, 756-6400. Ready to build a house, but you're not a builder? Are you shovel ready? Michael's Homes is ready to bulldoze its way to a solution for you. You have ideas on what you want in a house, but you're looking for someone to bring your ideas into a plan and turn your plan into a house. Michael's Homes, custom builder. Michael's Homes has lots available at a new subdivision, River Bay Estates, that's Harrison. Maybe River Watch in Saudi Daisy. Choices galore, lots, houses, beautiful homes all over Chattanooga. The Canyons, Hickson. Crystal Brook, Appleton. Drive in, take a look, consult with us. We build on your lot or ours. Homes-Chattanooga.com.
Call 423-413-9929.
Cash, 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 and more cash. Rick Davis has the cash when you sell gold, silver, diamonds, rings, and jewelry. Sell Rick your precious metals today and lock in your price. Hey, Rick Davis will trade your cash for shiny, brilliant, and heavy gold. Gold cheaper now by $100 an ounce. Join the Rick Davis Silver Bonanza too. Price is so low, the Lone Ranger is bound to gallop in, Kimosabe.
Hey-ho, silver, away!
The markets are changing, so buy now. Cash, 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 and more cash for your silver and gold, gold, gold. Rick Davis, 5301 Brainerd Road. That's 5301 Brainerd Road. Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Oh, and cash, cash, cash. You know where it is.
Hey-ho, silver, away!
If I'm the city's most intelligent man, it's because I take 2 shots of Mind Enhancement Complex every day. Nature's Finest keeps me stocked with my mainstay, Formula 4. That's where I start. Formula 4. Industrial farming, soil depletion, mineral empty foods. I just say no. Ask about supplements, health, stamina, circulation, heart, prostate under control. Get the Nooga Radio David Tulis freebie. Save $2 on every 5, 20% off. Nooga Radio, the highway, nature's finest.
There's a reason why Alliance Physical Therapy is a choice of professionals and those who care about first-class, top-notch service and treatment. Because at Alliance Physical Therapy of Chattanooga, we don't just treat the symptoms in your body. Whether you're suffering from stiffness, muscle spasms, back pain, chronic headaches every day, stress of life demanding more and more of you, Alliance Physical Therapy takes a holistic approach to healing mind, body, and soul. Alliance Physical Therapy with a location near you and 9 others in the Chattanooga area. If you don't have a doctor or if your physician's plan for chronic pain is not working, Alliance Physical Therapy will help. Visit Alliance Physical Therapy on the web at nopainpt.com. That's nopainpt.com. Alliance Physical Therapy.
Your favorite pool makes its own waves. The sun is getting low. You're not too bad yourself. Smart guy. Took advice and deals from Expedia in Chattanooga. Great food, great fellow passengers, made friends. Terrific prices, free upgrades. Use the card with the onboard credit for a cold one. Maybe use it in the game room. Expedia Rail, Expedia Flights, Expedia Cars. Maybe red tie for dinner. Expedia Cruise Ship Centers on Gun Barrel near Best Buy. 551-3770.
McCune Williams and Ashley PLLC offers a full array of legal services to meet the needs of businesses and individuals. Our attorneys represent diverse backgrounds, interests, and legal emphasis, but we share one common goal: providing the highest quality legal services to our clients through the combination of our talents, experience, and expertise. In each case, we strive to tailor those services to meet each client's specific circumstances. Business law, business organization, civil litigation.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Sunny Daisy, Chattanooga.
CBS News, I'm Frank Sedapani. We have breaking news about the recent wave of bomb threats against Jewish community centers and schools around the country. Federal agents and New York City and state police have arrested a suspect. A government complaint identifies the suspect as Juan Thompson, 31 years old. He's said to be from Missouri. The complaint alleges Thompson was involved in at least 8 threats. A Jewish cemetery in Rochester, New York is the third in 2 weeks to be hit by vandalism. Cemetery spokesman Michael Phillips.
Monuments were purposely pushed over from their base, resulting in the stone laying face down in the ground.
The other cemetery attacks took place in Philadelphia and the St. Louis suburb. President Trump is coming to the defense of his embattled attorney general. CBS's Stephen Portnoy has that.
The president calls Jeff Sessions an honest man who didn't say anything wrong when he told a Senate panel in January that he didn't have communications with the Russians through the campaign. In a series of tweets, the president accuses Democrats of overplaying their hand. For Sessions to resign. Barring that, they now want his acting deputy to tap a special counsel to oversee the Russia probe, someone who can't be easily fired.
Vice President Pence didn't break any law, but he's taking a political hit nonetheless for doing what Hillary Clinton did. He used a personal email account for state business as governor of Indiana. CBS News senior political editor Steve Chigueras.
From a political standpoint, it's sort of a juicy development considering Pence and Trump during the campaign were so critical of Hillary Clinton and her email system.
The days of taking laptops and other items out of carry-on luggage at airport checkpoints could be numbered. New CT scanners will do a much better job of spotting knives, explosives, and other concealed contraband. Mark Lostra is with Analogic, one of the companies working on that technology.
As the bag goes through the system, it's taking millions of data sets and using powerful algorithms, and that gives us the information we need to determine whether or not it's explosive material or it's innocent.
Airlines will be testing the new scanners in a few months. Chicago seems to be fighting a losing battle against gun violence, and one reason could be the large number of guns stolen from the city's biggest rail yard, more than 150 in the past 3 years.
Unfortunately, it's very easy for thieves to break into these train cars.
Former ATF agent Thomas Ahern. U.S. warplanes are keeping up the pressure on al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. CBS's Cammie McCormick has that.
This is the second consecutive day of raids, more than a dozen, and one of the targets was reportedly the home of an al-Qaeda leader. More than 20 airstrikes were carried out Thursday, targeting al-Qaeda positions in southern Yemen.
Oregon legislators are proposing a law that would force marijuana sellers to destroy a buyer's personal information to protect buyers from getting into trouble with the federal government. The Dow Industrials are down 3 points. This is CBS News.
President Trump has a secret plan to change America. It's all in David Horowitz's #1 bestseller, Big Agenda. It reveals 5 major predictions about Trump that have already come true, and 16 more soon to happen. Rush Limbaugh says you need Big Agenda. Newsmax calls it the best Trump book yet. Find out why the media hate Big Agenda. It's in bookstores everywhere. Or get our free offer at 800 Newsmax, 800 Newsmax, or bigagenda411.com. That's bigagenda411.com.
Or even the occasional breakout, with prescription-grade Proactive Plus, your acne can heal, and you can prevent future breakouts. Try Proactive Plus 100% risk-free. Plus, get 2 free gifts and free shipping. Take it from me, Proactive really works. Get prescription-grade Proactive Plus, their amazing skin purifying mask, and a second gift of your choice. Totally free and free shipping. You're guaranteed to get clear and stay clear, or you don't pay a penny. Call now, 800-281-8770. 800-281-8770.
General Motors is teaming up with AT&T to give car buyers unlimited 4G data for $20 a month. CBS's Jeff Gilbert has the story.
Putting 4G modems into cars opens up a lot of possibilities, but paying by the gigabyte turned off a lot of customers. OnStar's Laura Thornton says they hope the unlimited plan increases their current 15% take rate.
Having unlimited is a big opportunity for not only us from a sales perspective, but for the customer to really use this thing properly.
That includes backseat video streaming and turning vehicles into mobile offices. Jeff Gilbert, CBS News, Detroit.
Police in Fayetteville, North Carolina say no charges will be filed against the person who live streamed a murder victim's final moments. They say the 10-minute video didn't break any laws. Frank Sedapani, CBS News.
Is your basement or crawl space
AM 1240 Nooga Radio News. Russell Stroud reporting. The first volunteer back on Highway 58 was robbed by a gunman at about 3:40 p.m. yesterday. Police say nobody was hurt. 5 different businesses in our local area have been penalized yesterday morning after a meeting of the Chattanooga Beer Board for allegedly serving beer to underage individuals. There are also penalties for overcrowding to different restaurants as well. The Erlanger Chattanooga Marathon starts Friday afternoon, and there are going to be several road closures. Check out our Facebook page for more information about which roads are going to be closed and which areas you should avoid. The marathon goes from Friday until Sunday. On the national side of things, Congressman Scott DesJarlais on Thursday voted for the latest in a new series of House bills, which he says is to stop agency misconduct and overreach. He says that under the Obama administration, federal agencies violated laws prohibiting them from organizing publicity campaigns for some of the former president's more controversial initiatives. And Georgia Senator David Perdue voicing his support for Jeff Sessions, saying that he's a friend and, more importantly, a former colleague. It's going on in the Tennessee Valley. It's going on Nooga Radio News.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Expect lots of sunshine, but breezy and chilly for your Friday. Highs will struggle to reach the low to middle 50s. Tonight, clear, cold with a freeze likely. Lows 28 to 30 After a frosty start, looking good Saturday. Lots of sun near 60. Some clouds continue dry and pleasant Sunday. This week at Target, get $15 off when you spend $50 on laundry, cleaning supplies, and other household items. Find everything you need to stock up and save at Target. Some restrictions may apply. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Ward. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's David Tulis.
Don't you just love the first Friday of every month, Cash Friday, where we take a stab at declaring our independence, even though the language of this stab, the language of this effort, is entirely in the, you might say, the gibberish of the federal power. Stab is that you, my listener, and I today draw $100 in cash from our bank account or from our account at the credit union. And we draw $100 in cash because we want to affirm the necessity and the benefit of mediums of exchange or media of exchange that are physical, that are solid, that in effect are not traceable. They are private to an extent. They're private. They let us have transactions that don't have the long tail, you might say the long spermatozoa type tail that wiggles after every transaction done by credit card, such as the one a couple weeks ago that I witnessed at a Walmart where a woman went through the line with her husband. He had not made any purchases, but she had a bottle of water, and she used her credit card to pay for that bottle of water. It was like $1.10 or something like that. And so that transaction has that long tail wriggling after it, propelling news of that transaction to the credit card issuer and into the account of that woman, and she will be reminded of this very important transaction, this little mortgage, if you will, on that bottle of water, which is disposed of in its plastic bottle within the hour. And she will then pay by check, presumably not by credit card. She'll pay by check the balance of her obligation to the credit card company. That is the tapeworm economy. And that is what we deserve. And we deserve it because we have forgotten the tenets of local economy and the free market. Those tenets on Cash Friday we like to think about, but they are that near is better than far, and small is better than big, and near, and simple is better than complex, and then personal is better than corporate, and physical than abstract. If you boil all those down, you have a provincial person, such as the one I'm trying to become. I'm David Tulis, and I'm glad you're giving me just a couple minutes of your time here at Nooga Radio. I'm not a provincialist, but I'm trying to be. I'm trying to be a better person, a better Christian, A, and then B, a provincialist, a Nooga centrist. Now, I claim to be the leading Nooga centrist just by force of habit, having propounded this concept for several years now at Nooganomics.com, the website for the man who matters, and by God's providence on this, your favorite radio station. And I am glad that you are here at Nooga Radio, that you love Nooga Radio, that you love it for its national stars and its local stars, of which I apparently am one of them, with our leading program here, for which you are the most important party, right? You are the listener of my show. And you and I go here together every day. We meet, and you're following your routines, and this is my routine to talk to you and to consider the questions that you have to ask. And we ask ourselves, is it really better to love our neighbor and buy local? Or is that just a silly nostrum, a very weak claim today on Cash Friday? And I admit that local economy and the free markets, these are very weak ideas. And they're weak because they don't have the 82nd Airborne behind them. They don't have national government. They don't have gigantic outlays. They don't have an infrastructure coming out of Washington behind them. They don't even have an infrastructure coming out of Nashville for them, or even City Hall. It is something that belongs to you, and it belongs to me. And we have to live out our ideals. And I suggest that local economy, for someone you might know who's a Christian, okay, let's just take for a second. You're not Christian, perhaps, but you know someone who is. I argue that local economy is a secular description of the Christian's duty of sanctification, living out the law of God, living out the grace of God in his life and in his affairs, in his commerce, and thinking in terms of the future, thinking in terms of these nostrums, which they're sort of proofs of good things, but they're not themselves moral guidelines, right? My near is better than far point, my 5 points are not my 5 points of light, right? They're not really laws, they're not moral laws, but they are kind of nostrums, and they're just suggestions, and they're very weak. I admit that they're weak because they are private. Now, they're private and they're internalized, hopefully by you, the listener, so that you will be glad in your life to be where you are, and that you'll recognize that in God's providence, you are not where you are in your life by mistake, that there is a providence, an overseeing providence of God that governs the life of every man, even you, my listener, who are not a practicing Christian. Okay, well, I understand that, but even you, your life is governed by God's providential decree. And so what we have to do, believers, we've not been given grace to believe, right? What we have to do is be open to the power of the Holy Spirit. And that's what the Bible teaches is the operation of God in the life of a man who at some point repents, right? He repents, he turns around, he accepts God's claims upon him, and he dreads to offend him. He loves the commands that God gives, because it is in terms of those commands, we could say summarized by the Ten Commandments, that he lives out his good life. He lives out his virtuous life in public and at home. And also when he is sitting at his computer late at night, his wife's upstairs reading her book, her novel, and the man is there on his computer at night, and he knows how to delete histories, right? And so there he is, even there, rather than do what his flesh might drive him to do. He says, well, that's wrong. I'm going to just go upstairs and chat a bit before we go to bed, and not spend an extra hour down here looking online. And I'm not going to do that. That, even in the private life, the Christian man turns away from his evil nature, his lubricious nature. Okay, and so he lives out privately and publicly the ideals of the gospel. And I borrowing that and looking at the fruit of that being done thousands and thousands of times by Christian people and others who kind of borrow from Christianity innocently enough, I say, well, that's local economy. That is the ideal to which we need to go. In our politics, possibly, in our livings, in our savings, in our spendings, in what we value. Are we made better by buying name brands? We have all these outlays. We have to have the latest gadget, the latest bass boat, right? The latest rifle. What about the future? Is not the future perilous? Are we saving for the future? Are we preparing for disaster? Some part of our thinking, I would like to suggest, as John Wright does of the Chattanooga Area Emergency Readiness Group, think about the prospect of disaster, because there will be divine interruptions in your routines, and they may not be personal. They may be cataclysmic and affect everybody you know. If there's say an earthquake. Well, I want to talk about, if you don't mind, just give me a minute here to talk about Andy Burke. Do we believe in Andy Burke? And do we want to keep him another 4 years? There is a digital wave that Andy has poured out online. It is a gigantic wave, very profitable for purveyors of digital images and digital messages, such as Facebook. For example, Andy Burke has the 200 homeless vets. In 30 seconds, he delivers the point that he, Andy Burke, has veterans, brave and courageous men serving our country. He has given them homes, and that it really works on emotions rather, I would suggest, than facts. There is a lot, even though we have the fact of a federal government agency letter saying that Andy has solved the problem of veteran homelessness in Chattanooga. Is that really true? Do we believe Andy Burke? There are old-style candidates. Erskine Oglesby, running for city council, is one of them. If you read the Chattanooga Times Free Press report this morning about the election. Dave Crockett is another one. Dave faces the uphill battle of getting people to remember, through a 15-year gap, his absence from the political sphere in the city. Though he is a great and notable former city council member, you, my listener, don't know about his story, and so it's very hard for him to get that across in a sign along along Hickson Pike. It's very hard for him to convey that. The only way you can really find out something about that is to go to Nooganomics.com, the website for the man who matters, where I give some attention to him as a kind of local statesman. And that is how I view him, even though he's a liberal, even though in some respects, even though he represents things and is part of things that maybe I would question, he still is the best candidate. Do we believe the onslaught, the wave of advertising from Andy Burke? Okay, that video has been seen 8.8 thousand times on Facebook. I've seen it pass through my feed maybe 10 or 15 times in the past week or so, past 10 days. It's been shared 26 times. And ask yourself, wow, that's a lot of views and only 26 shares. That's not very impressive. There are 9 comments, almost all of them in favor, very short comments in favor of Andy Burke. And that's how Andy is making his way. He's not relying on personal connections or personal recollection of people. He's appealing to very current motorish folks, probably younger. And Crockett has to appeal to the older voter. He has to appeal to people who have a memory. You might say an institutional memory that would include him and his grand successes, which we don't really know about just by reading the Times Free Press. The Times Free Press is a very shallow publication. I'm sorry to say it has nothing in it of real depth. There's not depth in it. And political reporting, you get more political reporting from one guy, that's me, almost, than you do from the paper, even though it has a newsroom staff of, I don't know, 25 or 30 people. There's more politics and more analysis on my website from one guy, one overworked radio journalist, than at the paper of record. And I get the paper. I'm not saying don't get the paper, but I'm just saying that it's not very deep. And Clint Cooper, the conservative, supports Andy Burke. That is really amazing, and I would say wondrous, a thing wondrous to behold, that the pro-life and conservative Clint Cooper dismissing Crockett as a kind of great society politician supports a man who's a pro-abort and a pro-homosexual political figure with high ambitions. High ambitions. The internet democratizes things. I would say the internet, in a way, makes everything worthless. That's something my daughter, the artist, the sculptor, said. Dad, the internet makes everything worthless, and that's true. And I know I don't understand the internet. It is bewildering. It's hard to know how to gain ascendancy, to gain traction, to gain access to curated platforms, perhaps. When everybody is a writer, right? The media with their smartphones. And I don't want to say that we're not taking advantage of that. Just by the way, we're here at New York Radio, and our thinking is that if you report the world decides, you tell us what's happening on our Facebook page or contact me through Nooganomics.com, and we will report it. And that's because everybody has a smartphone. Everybody is effectively a publisher. So if that's true, then how does a man who writes 5,000-word essays about a candidate for mayor, how do I get traction? It's just impossible. And so it takes a really unique person to say, okay, David Tulis has really something to offer that's better than things I can read elsewhere. These brief ejaculations on Facebook that have 2 or 3 sentences and say something about Andy Burke. Well, that's just an opinion. Everybody has an opinion, but not everybody can analyze it. And yet I can, and I do. And you might say I'm dismayed and maybe a little hurt. And I admit that. I'm a little hurt sometimes that it's hard to gain traction. And it's hard to gain respect. The web democratizes politicking. And that's where Andy Burke is. He knows that. And he has very smart, savvy young people, very devout Democrats, right? Ideologue Democrats who are so bent on the Democrat agenda, which we could say is the gay and the pro-abortion agenda, which has many other important elements, that they are not even civil to a writer like me, who I've been in Chattanooga for a long time, and I'm treated like dirt by Mayor Burke and his staff. Tyler Yount, a couple Mondays ago at the debate at the Eastgate Town Center, I said, who's Tyler Yount, the man who would not return correspondence and whom I could not reach? He is the campaign director, very young ideologue, right? An ideologue, just by the way, is someone who sees everything in terms of his conception. He's not a realist in drinking in the world and looking at things pursuant to varied perception, varied arguments. He looks at things through a single lens. You know, it could be feminism or radical individualism, which is the gay theory. Certainly no man is bound by God's law. There is no constitution. We just have our pragmatic program running forward. And that's what we believe in. And that's, the state dependency and a narrative which gives people a sense of calm, a sense of peace. That is what we have in the Andy Burke campaign. Everything is all right. Everything is good. We are powerful. We are great. We are civil. We are approachable. These are the images and the sensations that we get watching Andy Burke's videos. The narrative is simple, is plain, and that, of course, is good marketing. There's one point, a single point, that Andy cares. Andy is right. It appeals to what we were, and we are, in fact, state dependent. And if the state runs smoothly, if city government runs smoothly, all can be as it is. There does not need to be. There are not real problems that we have not already addressed. The status quo is as it should be. Even the parts of the status quo that the city can address, and of course the other parts that it can't. It all is fine, and we are solving problems. We are there to make things right, and just elect Andy Burke. So, can we believe Andy Burke? Well, maybe we can believe him. Maybe he is genuinely a good man, even though he's not been faithful to his marital vows, and is said by the husband of Lacey Stone to have committed adultery against this man, to have cuckolded this man who's a photographer, Mr. Stone. And those claims are part of litigation for divorce in court here in Hamilton County. So these things, maybe you can lay that aside, maybe you can't. But these are the points for Andy Burke in consideration of him. The digital economy, the smooth and polished and genial man. Andy Burke, in his public presentations, I've seen two now, is a genial speaker. He's a genial, knowledgeable, very competent man. And that's the impression he gives. And I would say, from his perspective, it's entirely authentic. It's not anything put on. And from his perspective, it's not practiced, because that's the way he really is, right? He's very approachable and genial in his discussion, answering questions about what's happening. And so he's leaving behind, if you will, the other candidates, Dave Crockett and Larry Groen and Chris Long, all whom are humiliated in their spending to announce their goals and their ideas. Crockett has about $13,000 coming in a report that came out yesterday, and Burke has $400,000. So it's about 30 times more. And here we are. We're a people who elected Donald Trump. There was a popular revolt against the establishment nationally. And the question is, can people like you, or will people like you, transfer that and carry on a kind of memory of that overturning of the Democratic and Republican scheme to get Trump in? Can we carry that forward into the election for mayor on Tuesday? Will we overturn Andy Burke because he is part of the establishment? He's prototypical part of the establishment. Crockett is not. Groen is more or less. I mean, he's a city councilman, and his ideas are very conventional. And I would say the scale of them is smaller. However, Groen would say that Crockett's ideas are very large, and on his cajoling other bodies, such as general assemblies, such as the Trump administration, getting them to do something. That's a hard thing to do. And yet, in Crockett's perspective, getting the train and getting the county and the city legally separated, those are big projects that are worth doing, because they're to the benefit of the city and the residents of the city. Burke ignores these issues. The train is nothing to Burke, and the secession of the city from the county to save city taxpayers many millions of dollars on their tax bill, that also is nothing. It's just a cranky idea. I don't think it's a cranky idea, but that's what Burke would say if he would even deign to address the problem or address the question. Well, what do we say? What do we do? I think we should vote, and I think that though the fervor of the national election is gone, and people are now starting to wonder sometimes about Donald Trump, even though he is a kind of federal establishment, and even though he is a Yankee president, and we do have a Yankee problem, he got there in the White House because of a revolt, and Democrat establishments. In Chattanooga, Andy Burke represents that. And perhaps slightly, I would say maybe Larry Groen does too. Crockett less so, but Crockett has very unusual ideas. He is the GMO-free candidate, and if you're health-minded or environmental-minded, that might be reason to look at him again and maybe think something favorable about him. He's not explicitly free market like I would like him to be, but then neither is Larry Groen. There's a removal of both of the leading rival candidates to the free market argument that we make here in unadulterated form every day. And this is David Tulis. Every day, you and I, my listener, get together and we look at the free market as a concept, as a principle, under the hand of God, you might say, under the umbrella of the law of God, which gives the bearings that we need, the sense of equity, right and wrong, what is right, what is wrong. They're not private definitions of, let's say, perjury. Right? Perjury is not something subjective. Lying is not something subjective. These are offenses that God hates, right? And so we know they're wrong. We know that police should always tell the truth in their statements, because God says that it's a crime. It's wrong to tell falsehoods. Under God's standard, we can have liberties here in Chattanooga.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
AM 1240 Nooga Radio News. Russell Stroud reporting. The first volunteer bank on Highway 58 was robbed by a gunman at about 3:40 p.m. yesterday. Police say nobody was hurt. 5 different businesses in our local area have been penalized yesterday morning after a meeting of the Chattanooga Beer Board for allegedly serving beer to underage individuals. There are also penalties for overcrowding to different restaurants as well. The Erlanger Chattanooga Marathon starts Friday afternoon, and there are going to be several road closures. Check out our Facebook page for more information about which roads are going to be closed and which areas you should avoid. The marathon goes from Friday until Sunday. On the national side of things, Congressman Scott DesJarlais on Thursday voted for the latest in a new series of House bills, which he says is to stop agency misconduct and overreach. He says that under the Obama administration, federal agencies violated laws prohibiting them from organizing publicity campaigns for some of the former president's more controversial initiatives. And Georgia Senator David Perdue voicing his support for Jeff Sessions, saying that he's a friend and, more importantly, a former colleague. It's going on in the Tennessee Valley. It's going on Nooga Radio News.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Shane Wilson makes music to get your house sold. Get traffic to your house. Get calls. Strum up a bit of demand. One offer, just one. If it's right, it's all you need. We riff you through the usual tedium. Pre-qualified? Financing? We help you get it all together. $. Here's a symbol we like. Shane Wilson with RE/MAX Select Realty, your real estate rock star. PickShane.com, 635-7779.
Oh, he's got bad breath. And once he slobbered. But your dog's teeth are important for his health. The canine dentist at Wolf Fever has an offer. Listen, ultrasonic cleaning, polishing, x-rays, only $135. Ordinarily, you'd pay $175. For a few days, pay only $135. And get $115 in freebies as a thank you. Grooming, boarding at the inn at Wolf Fever. Act this week. Use anytime this year. Floss and rinse now. 344-1913. WolfTeaver.com.
My name's Chris Long, and I want to be the people's mayor. Every 2 to 4 years, politicians come back in our neighborhoods and explain why they didn't do what they promised and how things are going to be different this time. Let's understand a vote for Andy Burke will mean another 4 years of being ignored. A vote for me will mean creating trade schools for our children, black business districts, more affordable housing, and the end of violent crime. I want a level playing field for everybody, not just a select few. Let's bring back the voice of Chattanooga. Vote for Chris Long.
And now to our reporter in the field.
We asked Ray at Ray's Plumbing what's important for homeowners to know.
Some field line systems can cost upwards of $10,000. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road. I would definitely recommend everybody with a septic that is not on county or city sewer to have an inspection done by a qualified professional. It'd be great if nobody did inspections on them for all plumbing companies. That's what we do to make a living. Not to scare anyone, but it should be in the back of your mind. The danger is the field lines failing and costing thousands upon thousands of dollars and tearing your yard up. By preventative maintenance, you're saving yourself a large headache that may displace yourself and your family. That happens more often than you think. The waste is designed to stay in the tank, and that waste will build up over time. Even with treatment, we have to help that waste break down. Ultimately, preventative maintenance is the key that will keep you from spending $5,000 to $10,000 on replacing your septic system. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road.
Call Ray at Ray's Plumbing, 421-6341, 421-6341.
Final expenses, funeral costs, cemetery lots, unpaid medical bills, probate cost, debts. Debts are due and payable upon death of debtor. Will these costs produce a burden and hardship on your loved ones? Who will be responsible? How will they handle them? These costs can total many thousands of dollars, only compounded greater with the grief of losing a family member. A safe and secure way to provide for these costs is with an affordable life insurance from Covenant Group Insurance and Financial Services. Covenant Group is a local company with local agents. Covenant Group still makes house calls. Covenant Group only represents A-rated companies. With many options to offer, Covenant Group can accommodate almost any budget. Great discounts for good health and plans available for impaired risk. Call today for a free, no-obligation consultation in the convenience of your home. Call Steve or Jada at 423-855-8484. Call today, 423-855-8484.
Amigos Mexican Restaurant in Hickson, featuring our NASCAR Natty Light for only $2.25 all day during the Sprint Cup race. That's right, all day during the race. Enjoy a cool, crisp, refreshing brew. Natty Light, just $2.25. Also choose from a wide variety of other beverages on tap or in the bottle. Amigos, between Hobby Lobby and Staples in Hickson. Amigos Mexican Restaurant, a real homemade taste of Mexico. And Natty Light for only $2.25 during the Sprint Cup race. A festive atmosphere, great service and prices, a fantastic taste. Always fresh, never frozen. Stay cool, quench your thirst at happy hour, 9 to 3 today and every day, featuring huge drink specials at Amigos. Take the table next to mine. We'll enjoy the Sprint Cup race on huge flat screen TVs with friends and family. See you here at the Cantina, Amigos.
We've spent lots of sunshine, but breezy and chilly for your Friday. Highs will struggle to reach the lower to middle 50s. Tonight, clear, cold with a freeze likely, lows 28 to 30. After a frosty start, looking good Saturday. Lots of sun near 60. Some clouds continue dry and pleasant Sunday. This week at Target, get $15 off when you spend $50 on laundry, cleaning supplies, and other household items. Find everything you need to stock up and save at Target. Some restrictions may apply. And I'm Smorsheen 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
At the credit union yesterday, a man who works at what was formerly known as Uncle Bob's Storage, which has a new name now, Life Storage, said he recognized me, and he said he had just watched a video about the bubble that we are enjoying here in Chattanooga. And while I say that we're enjoying the bubble, I want you to think just briefly to deflate your engorged enthusiasm for it. Think just briefly of the idea that success breeds excess. Success breeds excess. If you are a party in the national economy and you can create money from nothing, why would you stop? How would you know when to stop creating the new money? What barrier could you possibly see that would make you say, you know, I think I better start rounding up my loans and putting some more padding in my reserves, because I think we've gone far enough. You have every inducement to not do that. And when you and because you've counted on the Federal Reserve System for the past decade to protect the giant and drunken party on Wall Street, you know that the Fed is not going to undo that, because if it did, there'd be a disaster. If the Fed stopped subsidizing cheap loans and cheap investment, if it stopped subsidizing malinvestment in the national economy and around the world, there would be a depression. There would be a collapse. And so we know that the Fed, which is a highly politicized private corporation owned by banks, we know that the Fed will not do that. And so that's the story that you read about often in Section C of the Times Free Press or in the Wall Street Journal is reading the tea leaves about Grandma yelling, is she going to raise rates? And the whole question about raising rates has the secret, not really a secret, but the hidden question or the hidden concession, if you will, that if we raise rates, suddenly people's debt in long-term out-year repayments is going to be more expensive, and we may have a crisis in confidence. We have to maintain, as they say, liquidity all around Chattanooga. The man pointed out at the credit union. He said all around. I've just noted, and apparently the fact that he had seen my little presentation made him aware of what his eyes were seeing. We do that a lot here at Nooga Radio, and this is David Tulis, your host here every morning at 9 o'clock every day. And I'm glad that you, my listener, condescend for just a couple minutes to give me your ear and let me chat with you. We cover things that people see but which they don't understand. Now, I mentioned that, and immediately comes to mind the mind in the brain that's over the bow tie, right? That's the head on the neck around which there's the bow tie. That's me, by the way. The bow tie. What is bow tie saying today? And what sensible shoes is he wearing today? The thing that we're all seeing that we're not noticing is the geoengineering project of the national government. I take that as a serious story, even though it deflects credibility in some respects, even though in some circles I'm laughed at. I can't be serious. If I believe that jets are actually laying powder in the sky, we don't know how to do that. No one really knows how to do that. Condensation trails that come out of the backs of jets are just that, condensation trails, and it's not a plan from high origins to control the weather. Also, we look at other things that are not really noticed, and that would be the fruits of success. And the question now we have to ask is, we look at building developments all across Chattanooga, is there excess evident in Chattanooga? How strong is the optimism for continued development, continued investing, as I say, it's investing, into bricks and sidewalks and fine buildings and roofs and properties and paving, all the things that go into making a new senior citizen home or a new hotel or a new subdivision, all of which is premised on the continuing cheapness of money, which is to say not money but credit. And so the question is about the thing that's created in the banking sector. And that would be, we say it's money, we say it's dollars, but these are not really dollars. Dollars are something quite different from what we imagine being created in the banking sector to finance another nursing home or another strip mall. How many strip malls do we have? How many fine business centers do we need in Chattanooga? Now, what is a dollar? I'm going to let you hear something. This sound right here, you hear that? That is the sound of a dollar. Now, you don't hear that sound when you go to other coins. Now, if you have some coins in your pocket, make a little music with them and hear and see if the music you hear is like the music that I hear here. That's the sound of coins today. They have nothing in them. They're just cupronickel and slag and various kind of crappy substitute metals, not silver. Now, what you heard first were dollars. They were silver. And today on Cash Friday, we are going to go to the bank and get $100 out. Now, we say it's $100, but really, of course, it's not 100 real dollars. It's just 100 units in this pretended currency, the Federal Reserve note, which has not just non-referential paper, not just paper notes printed by the trillions for circulation worldwide as the world reserve currency, but also digitally created. In that denomination, in that dollar, we have billions and trillions of debts, promises to pay, guarantees of promises to pay, bets on the market going up, bets on the market going down through hedge funds, right? The hedge funds are a new phenomenon, relatively new, about 40 years old or so. They bet on the gyrations of paper money. Every country in the world has paper money. Not one single country has a lawful medium of exchange. Who comes out ahead in this system? Well, the good people do. The people who create the money. Think about that. If you can create money by lending credit of a borrower, you create these dollars on his good name, and then you count his promises to pay. an asset. If you do that, you are making effectively you're making money, even though these are just digital dollars and not real printed dollars. You're making money, and you are reducing the buying power of every other dollar in the world by that genteel and gracious act of creating a loan in your bank. And your bank has two sets of books, and the whole debt bubble that we are in today is in the paper dollar, not in the real dollar. Cash is a tiny sliver of the economy. Just realize that the cash is a tiny part of the economy. And this is David Tulis.
Hi, David. This is Paul Hine. I'm sorry, I forgot all about it. I went to the grocery store after Mass this morning, so I'm available now.
Well, thank you so much. I have on the phone Dr. Paul Hine, who is a retired ophthalmologist and an author of a favorite volume, which is called All Work and No Pay. I'm holding it up here for my on YouTube. We are live, by the way, on YouTube at the Nooga Radio channel. And I'm holding it up for our viewer on Facebook, even though it's backwards. You can't really read the title of his book, All Work and No Pay, Life-Saving Lessons in Modern Economy. And so here we have Dr. Hine, who's done his shopping after going to worship. And Dr. Hine, it's Cash Friday. And today I'm telling my listener and I that he and I need to do something daring. And that is to take abstract dollars in our account that are reported in numbers, some kind of number that we can check online, and transfer the number in the account to another number that's $100 less or 100 units less. And we're drawing from our teller window there a bill that has 100s written on it. Is there anything remarkable about that, or is there anything scary about that?
Well, I suppose it could be scary to the banks, Mr. Tulis, if a number of people would do it, because it would give a signal to the bank that the people know what's going on. What's going on is that when you deposited that $100, that, depending upon the reserve requirement, allowed the bank then to loan, perhaps $1,000 if it was a 10-to-1 reserve ratio. And similarly, when you retract the $100 from the bank or take it back, that reduces the amount of backing, you might say, for $1,000, and could cause the bank some problem if enough people were doing it. But yeah, it's a nice thing to do, I think, because it signifies to the banks that their customers know what's going on. And besides, it's nice to have some cash too.
Well, why is cash an advantage for my listener to have? Does it make you maybe more manly, Dr. Hine?
Well, even women can have it, but I think that the advantage of cash is that you can deal privately with it. You and I could make some sort of arrangement where I bought something from you for $100 and nobody would know about it. And also, of course, once the cash is in your pocket, you've got it. I mean, the money that's in your bank is merely an electronic entry with a push of a button that could be erased, and you could find that your bank account somehow was reduced to nothing. If the money is in your pocket in the form of cash, it's much more difficult for the bank to do that.
Now, you say that, and when you make that comment, Dr. Hine, I hear you sort of thinking, you're wanting the listener to think, wow, I have something that's actually really something of value. I have a piece of paper with 100 on it, and there's a presidential figure on it, or a Ben Franklin, and I'm strong, I'm good, I'm independent. In a way, we're sort of even there. We are deceiving ourselves in a way, right?
Yes. I mean, the $100 bill changed its form, I don't remember when, a few years ago. And the government could always declare that the old bills were no longer usable. So if you had saved 10 of those $100 bills with the old picture on it, buy something, you couldn't use them, or you went to deposit them in the bank and they wouldn't take them. So sure, you're not safe. You're safer if you have $100 in silver coins, 100 silver coins. Even there, you're not safe, because in 1933, the government confiscated gold coins, and they could do the same today with silver coins. So as far as money is concerned, we're pretty much at the mercy of the people who run the system.
In what way would you say that the banking system harvests the wealth of the people, Dr. Hine?
Oh, I think, Mr. Tulis, that's the whole point of the banking system, is to transfer wealth from the producers of wealth to the producers of money. In return for the money which they lend you, you have to put up something tangible as collateral or security. It costs the bank nothing to produce $10,000 for you to buy, say, a new car or something. But they'll have title to the car if you don't pay them back $100.
Is it possible to say, Dr. Hine, that if your debt is contracted in Federal Reserve units, either digital or hard copy, that it's not a sin to repay it because you're not actually stealing something from the lender?
I think, morally speaking, you're not required to pay anything back because, as I say, all you got from them is their promise. The paper is a promise of payment. It's even marked note. And the bank entries, which they might loan you in the form of a check, are merely obligations of the bank. And so you counteract that by giving them your promise of payment. So there is an even exchange there. I don't think you owe the bank anything, morally speaking, or perhaps even legally speaking, but things are rigged up so that you better not try that.
Better not try.
If the bank says you owe the money, you better think twice about not repaying it.
Well, this is David Tulis, and we're talking with Dr. Paul Hine, who's the author of one of my favorite books, which is called All Work and No Pay. I'm sure you can find it on Amazon. Dr. Hine, when it is Cash Friday, and so we're encouraging our listener to join me. So the listener and I will draw out $200 in a piece of paper, a green rectangle with 100 written on it on the front and 4 times on the back. As we get this piece of paper and look at it, it seems very important. It seems very much worth our confidence and our trust.
Well, it's very well printed and very elaborately engraved, and just about as solemn and as pontifical as they can make it. But it's just a piece of paper. And if paper were money, we often hear the expression paper money. There'd be 100 times more paper than in that bill than there would be in a $1 bill, and there isn't, obviously. So this is just, despite its very impressive looking appearance, this is just a promise of payment, which in fact is never going to be made. If you took that piece of paper to the bank and said, this is a note, I want you to pay up the note, they would either regard you as some poor demented soul who just arrived on the radish truck, or else, they'd laugh at you. The United States Attorney years ago did that. He presented the note to the Federal Reserve, and a lawsuit resulted when they didn't pay it, and I believe that the judge ridiculed him by song to the effect that it's lovely to look at, but that's all there is to it. So yeah, you won't get anything for it, despite its impressive appearance.
It seems like President Trump, with his multi-trillion-dollar promises for more military spending and infrastructure spending, will be really soliciting the powers of and the affections of friends of paper money through inflation. Now, if we have, I suspect there's inflation in many parts of the economy that we just don't realize. But many things are more expensive than they used to be. College educations, cars, giving birth to a child, all of them are in the thousands, tens of thousands of dollars, where they used to be just a couple $100. And if we come to a point where we are really drowning in new debt, new paper, that would be, of course, price inflation. And the establishment, when that happens, as the establishment in Germany did prior to the rise of Hitler, there were all kinds of remedies that were proposed for inflation, such as having cheaper cuts of meat, lowering the temperature in his house, conservation, right? Don't use assets, don't drive your car quite as far. Is that kind of advice really getting to the problem, or is there another problem?
Well, that may tend to solve the problem as far as the bankers is concerned on the poor individual, but no, it doesn't really solve the problem. And the problem of rising prices is something of an illusion, because it's not so much necessarily that the price of an article like a gallon of milk has gone up, but the value of the so-called dollar has gone down. The banks never want to look at it that way. They like you to think that the price of milk has gone up because the milk producers are greedy, and the labor unions are causing problem, and foreign imports are causing havoc with the economy. But the problem is right there in the banks, that they're creating money left and right, and obviously they can create money faster than people can create goods. And so the ratio of money to goods is increasing, and the money is becoming relatively worthless, although they, of course, prefer to think of it as goods are becoming more expensive.
Is there something my listeners should take in the way of friendly personal advice from you, Dr. Hine? You're not an investment advisor, but what would you say is a way of trying to get around the problem, but we really can't escape the paradigm of the paper money economy on this Cash Friday?
Well, I wouldn't presume to give anybody advice except on a purely personal basis. In my opinion, the worst investment you can make is money.
Do you think that the past 10 years, Dr. Hahn, that the Fed, led now by Janet Yellen, is proving true the nostrum that success begets excess? Is that true, and what does it mean for the listener?
I'm sorry, Mr. Tulis, I didn't understand you. What did you say?
The question is, there's a nostrum in the financial world that says success begets or breeds excess. Is the system in excess right now?
Well, I think so, yes. I mean, when you look at the figures of the United States debt, why, it's absolutely staggering, and there is no way in the world it can possibly be paid. So sooner or later, this is going to come home, and the system will collapse. And I think that's probably something that the bankers realized almost from the beginning, that if money is a promise of payment, and if the payment is made by more promises, that eventually you're going to be so overwhelmed with promises or debt that the system is just going to fall apart, because nobody's going to take it seriously. I mean, as the situation in Harare, what's the capital, the city of Harare is capital of what?
Is that India?
I think the situation there for a while back was that any American that had a $10 bill in his pocket could buy $1 billion Harare dollars. Well, I mean, when the situation gets that ridiculous, nobody's going to take it seriously, and there's no sense printing the stuff if people aren't going to take it seriously. So, yes, I think there's a tremendous success.
And so I think my listener and I want to take what you're saying as kind of a warning, and the warning is beware of having confidence in the instrument that has the General Grant on it or the George Washington on it. Be wary of that and go to something more substantial and physical.
Absolutely. The Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago years ago printed a booklet called Modern Money Mechanics, which is very forthright and straightforward book, in which they say that the reason that our monetary system works is because people have confidence in it. In other words, when somebody gives you that $100 bill, you have confidence that you're going to get something for it, and for the time being, you can, although less and less with each passing month. But when that confidence disappears or wavers, and the whole system teeters on the brink of destruction, we're getting pretty close to that point now, I think.
Well, I'm thinking also, Dr. Hine, and Dr. Hine, thank you so much for chatting with my listener here on the David Tulis program.
That's my pleasure.
This is David Tulis. We've been talking with Paul Hine, who's the author of one of my favorite books, which is All Work and No Pay. You can get a copy of it at Amazon. Look at it here on YouTube. I've got holding it up for our YouTube viewer. And the question is, do we have confidence in the way things are in the financial and political establishment that keeps up this green rectangle scheme in which we are all trapped? We're all trapped as you and I, my listener, are harvested by the good people in Washington and in the credit sector.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
I buy Chattanooga houses. Do you have a house that you need to sell? Call us right now, 423-364-0028. Need to sell a house? Here's some of the people we can help. Did you inherit a house that you have no need for? Do you have nightmare tenants making your life miserable? Maybe your house is too big and you want to downsize. You got recently divorced and you need a way out of the house. Maybe you just want to sell. No realtor fees, no hassles, no repair. Costs close the day of your choice. We inspect your property right away, make you a fair cash offer, and we close the day of your choice. 423-364-0028.
Your marriage is over. You've been abandoned, betrayed. You're angry, shattered, and heartbroken. Don't go it alone. When you are facing divorce, you need an experienced advocate to help protect your rights in future. And you need it from a man with a sympathetic heart, but a hard nose. Attorney Clay Whitaker will fight for you in this most confusing and bitter time in your life. Clay Whitaker, 756-6400. Are you shovel ready to build a house, but you're not a builder? Are you shovel ready? Michael's Homes is ready to bulldoze its way to a solution for you. You have ideas on what you want in a house, but you're looking for someone to bring your ideas into a plan and turn your plan into a house. Michael's Homes, custom builder. Michael's Homes has lots available at a new subdivision, River Bay Estates. That's Harrison. Maybe